And I appreciate the committee's interest in this bill, and obviously this legislation has generated a lot of interest, and because electricity is important to our state. It's important to the citizens of Missouri. I think all of us have noticed with the economic circumstances in our nation that there's been a lot of activity in the financial world. A lot of people are considering refinancing their homes. People are trying to pay off debt that they have, and there's a reason for that. That reason is because debt is expensive, and we acknowledge that in our personal lives. House Bill 554 addresses that issue. It addresses the fact that when the construction of large power plants, the financing of those plants is critical to the economics for the customers that eventually will pay for those plants. In 1976, there was a major change in the laws of Missouri regarding construction of power plants. That was right after 3 Mile Island and right after the construction of Callaway 1, and a number of things happened to raise the concerns over nuclear power, and as a result there were significant changes at the federal level in the regulations and the rules that govern construction of nuclear power plants. The result of that was dramatic increases in the cost of the construction of Callaway 1. In a reaction to that, there was an initiative petition passed in the state of Missouri which changed the way power plants can be financed. And the purpose of that initiative, it was by and large an anti-nuclear initiative. The purpose of that initiative was to ensure that Missouri did not build any more power plants, and that initiative has been very effective. In the current environment that we have, it is virtually impossible to obtain the financing to build any large power generation facility. Not just including nuclear, but also including any kind of coal generation facility. HB 554 has as its goal opening up the arena of generation options so that the Public Service Commission, in combination with power generation utilities, can select the best option for Missourians. The option that gives them a combination of reliability and cost effectiveness that is optimum. We cannot do that in today's environment. I believe that the language that we have in HB 554 will allow us to do that.
I want to speak to you today not just as a sponsor or co-sponsor of House Bill 554, but as someone who has worked in this industry for over 25, 30 years. We've been hearing a lot about the economic stimulus lately. 554 will provide an economic stimulus for us here in Missouri. By passing this bill, for all intents and purposes, we'll have the largest economic stimulus package in our state history. Callaway 2, without a doubt, will be the largest construction project ever. To give you a perspective, the $6 billion cost of Callaway 2 in inflation-adjusted dollars would be 10 times bigger than the ongoing Highway 40 construction project, 17 times bigger than the Busch Stadium project, and more than 30 times larger than the Gateway Arch project. This project is going to produce 3,000 to 4,000 construction jobs that will pay, the average wage is upwards of $20 plus a benefit package.
I do not envy you with the many decisions that you face in this bill, and you have been placed in a position of dealing with a significant issue in public policy with implications for millions of Missouri citizens and countless businesses. A new nuclear power plant estimated to cost between $7 and $14 billion and take 7 to 10 years to build could potentially lead to rate increases of greater than 40%, 50%. These are issues which cannot be taken lightly and will demand your attention and study. First of all, please do not interpret my testimony to be prejudgment on any potential issue that could come before the Commission. I cannot and will not address whether such a power generation facility is needed or when it will be needed. And I will not endorse any particular fuel or type of facility that could be presented to the Commission at some point in the future. I do not intend to endorse any particular method of rate making, whether we're talking about construction work in progress or the cash metrics or credit metrics form of rate making. Each of these decisions will be made at the appropriate time and based on the record according to the statutory framework established by you, the General Assembly. and it would be inappropriate for the PSC to invade the province of the legislature in setting these basic principles. Secondly, on a personal level, I am not opposed to nuclear power. I am not opposed to adding new generation in general. I am not opposed in theory to the concept of construction work in progress, and I am not personally advocating that any utility should utilize any particular rate-making model. What I am supportive of, however, is a process that embraces stakeholder involvement, working through the complex array of issues to reach consensus on as many issues as possible. I'm supportive of an open and transparent process in which the public can have confidence regardless of the ultimate decision. On a project with far-reaching implications affecting so many people, the possibility of achieving some degree of settlement among utilities, ratepayer advocates, and industrial customers should be encouraged and pursued.
I think it came off last week that maybe we weren't interested in adapting this bill or changing it, and we certainly are open to to working out differences that people may have with it. I just want to mention though that we do think it is an important bill. We do think it's key to our overall ability to be able to finance it. I don't want to start just with this bill though, and leave the impression that's what it's all about. We started an integrated resource plan, something like, we followed it last February. It was a 13-month process where we had all the stakeholders involved, looking at the best future options for Missouri in the area of energy for our company. And because we need to provide the generation when it's in demand. So we went through that process, looked at various generation sources, including energy efficiency and renewables and clean coal and nuclear. We looked at all those options, and we did various sensitivities with the high price of gas, low prices of gas, aggressive energy conservation, not so aggressive. In other words, we tried lots of options. And the end of the result was that we should do as much as we can on energy efficiency, and we completely agree with that. We're going to be spending between $30 and $50 million a year on energy efficiency programs in our state and our territory. And we're definitely committed to that. And if it turns out that energy efficiency solves it for us, and we don't need to build this, we'll be able to see some indications of that in the next couple of years, and we're going to be watching very closely how successful those programs are. We also are going to be doing some renewables, but this is a tough state to do renewables in, and we think even being aggressive in both of these areas, and we think we can get the equivalent of at least a baseload plant equivalency. We'll still need to add some kind of baseload plant around the 2020 timeframe, 2018 to 2020. Part of that is carbon legislation that's coming that was mentioned earlier. We think even a minimum carbon tax or some kind of carbon effect on our plants is going to have our older plants going to be very hard to keep them running in the future. And as mentioned earlier, one of our plants that provides 1,000 megawatts of power will be 70 years old in 2020, and is exactly the type of plant that the federal government is targeting for closing down. So we think
this leads us to a position where right now we're not in a position where we can afford to take rate increases. In fact, if anything, we need rate decreases, but that's a matter for us to deal with the Public Service Commission, and we are dealing in that forum on that issue. The second reason why we're here really deals with this bill that's referred to as CWIP legislation. And it's already been mentioned, and I won't go into a lot of detail here, that there's really been too much risk transferred to the consumer in this bill. And in spite of and by the way, we have our line item by line item review of the bill as well, and rather than us going through that today, Mr. Chairman, what we'd like to do is offer our time at any time to go through that with whoever in the room, or whatever committee is appropriate, because we have observations on the bill, and they add up to an inappropriate risk transfer from the utility to the ratepayer, and that's in the form of this distinction between the utility being required, which for the authorization of the project they are. They have to prove that it's a prudent project, but then at later stages in the project, it's the requirement of other interested parties to approve that their actions are imprudent. And we don't think that's where that responsibility should lie.